15 regions of the planet that science admits it cannot explain. There are regions on the planet that defy maps, satellites, and even the most solid explanations of modern science. Places where compasses go haywire. Phenomena arise without apparent cause, and natural laws seem to fail. These are points scattered across the Earth that carry enigmas so profound that even experts, after decades of research, still admit to not having conclusive answers. Some of these places hide stories of survivors who have witnessed the impossible. Others accumulate centuries of accounts that repeat themselves with disturbing precision. In many cases, nature seems to act as if it were protecting secrets too old to be revealed. On this journey, you will cross deserts that devour metals and do not reflect radio waves, seas where ships and planes disappear without a trace, caves that have produced their own isolated ecosystem for millions of years, volcanoes that behave like living organisms, and geological formations that seem to have been shaped by something beyond erosion. Each region presented here has something in common. Scientists know what happens, but they don't know why it happens. And the more they seek explanations, the more questions arise. Get ready to discover 15 of the most mysterious, unsettling, and scientifically inexplicable places on Earth. At the end, answer: which of these regions would you like to see detailed in a full documentary? A Californian death valley, the rocks that walk on their own. In the heart of the California desert lies one of the most unsettling phenomena ever recorded. Giant rocks that move on their own, leaving long trails across the dry surface of racetrack playa. Some weigh over 300 kilograms, too large to be moved by any animal or human force without any evident marks. The grooves they leave behind are deep, continuous, and appear overnight as if the ground had come to life during the night. The most disturbing thing is that cameras installed by researchers rarely capture the exact moment of movement. On many occasions, the rocks appear in completely new positions without any visual record revealing how they got there. The most widely accepted, though incomplete, explanation suggests that very thin sheets of ice form under the rocks on specific nights, reducing friction and allowing winds to slowly push the stones. But this theory falls apart when researchers analyze cases where several rocks shift together, as if dragged by the same invisible force, and then follow completely different trajectories. There are also rocks that accelerate, decelerate, or change direction abruptly, leaving patterns that don't match wind, ice, or any known natural process. Racetrack playa remains one of the rare places in the world where science, even with advanced technology, admits it's not completely certain what's happening. For many, this desert is more than just a field of rocks. It's a stage where natural laws seem momentarily suspended. 2. Devil's Sea, the mysterious triangle of Japan. In the Western Pacific, between Japan and the Bonin Islands, there is an area that has been feared for centuries. The Devil's Sea, also known as the Dragon's Triangle, is a zone where ships have repeatedly disappeared, with no wreckage ever found. During the 20th century, both fishermen and military vessels reported compasses spinning uncontrollably, radios suddenly losing contact, and giant waves emerging from completely calm seas. Some recorded lights moving underwater, as if something enormous were patrolling the depths. Scientific explanations are varied and often conflicting. The region has intense underwater volcanic activity, capable of creating gas bubbles that decrease the density of the water and cause boats to sink without warning. Other theories involve sudden storms, marine vortices, and irregular magnetic fields. However, none of this explains the number of disappearances or the fact that some ships seem to simply evaporate, leaving behind only silence and questions. For the Japanese government, this area is so unstable that for many years they declared the location a danger zone, recommending that small vessels never cross the central coordinates. Even with modern technology, the Devil's Sea remains one of the greatest maritime enigmas on the planet. 3. Bermuda Triangle, the black hole of the Atlantic. Few places in the world carry such a strong reputation as the Bermuda Triangle. Located between Miami, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda, this stretch of the Atlantic has become synonymous with unexplained disappearances. Planes have vanished without transmitting emergency messages. Ships have disappeared without any distress call, and even submarines have lost contact, as if sucked into an invisible force. Many reports mention magnetic anomalies, compasses pointing to true north instead of magnetic north, unstable instruments and navigation systems that fail simultaneously. Science has attempted to explain the phenomenon with hypotheses such as fast-moving storms, killer waves, human error, and pockets of methane that could sink vessels. Despite this, none of these theories covers all cases. The most intriguing thing is that even with modern monitoring, satellites, and ocean radars, there is still an unusual number of incidents without a complete explanation. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the few places where cutting-edge technology guarantees safety. It remains a maritime black hole, where logic is lost and the ocean holds secrets that no one can unravel. 4. Lake Natron, the lake that turns life to stone. In Tanzania, there is a lake so extreme that it seems to belong to another planet. Natron is formed by highly alkaline waters with a pH similar to that of ammonia. When small animals come into contact with it, their bodies are quickly calcified, creating the appearance of petrified statues. The often red surface is stained by organisms that resist almost impossible conditions. The lake is so hot and corrosive that its evaporation creates solid, white crusts capable of trapping any creature that gets too close. Although science understands part of the lake's chemical composition, there are still enigmatic elements. It is not known exactly how some species manage to live around it, especially birds that nest on islets formed by mineral deposits. The lake's coloration also changes unpredictably, sometimes in a matter of hours, without identifiable cause. Natron oscillates between a living landscape and a natural cemetery, a place where life and death coexist in an almost symbolic way. 5. Movil Cave, the cave that has lived in isolation for 5 million years. Hidden in Romania, Movil Cave is one of the most isolated ecosystems ever discovered. It has remained sealed off from the outside world for over 5 million years, without sunlight, without vegetation, without common oxygen, and with high levels of toxic gases such as hydrogen sulfide. Yet it harbors more than 50 species adapted to this extreme environment, many of which exist nowhere else on the planet. Some are completely blind, others have developed translucent bodies and hyperacute senses. Science can study the life inside, but doesn't understand how the ecosystem has remained stable for so long. The food chain depends on bacteria that feed on chemical substances present in the water and air, something totally different from ecosystems based on sunlight. The conditions inside the cave are so fragile that any external change could destroy the internal balance. Movil seems like a time capsule, a glimpse of how life might have arisen on Earth or even on other worlds. 6. Lake Angikuni, the village that disappeared entirely. In the icy territory of Nunavut, Canada, lies Lake Angikuni, the scene of one of the most mysterious mass disappearances of the 20th century. In the late 1930s, a hunter named Joe Label arrived at the Inuit village, which had always welcomed him hospitably. But this time, the silence was absolute. Campfires were still burning. Pots were full of hot food. Clothes hung up. Weapons leaned against the wall. And no sign of life. It was as if all the villagers had gotten up in the middle of their activities and simply evaporated. The most disturbing thing is that there were no footprints leading anywhere. No trace of escape, struggle, or evacuation. Pets died of starvation, tied to posts, indicating that the abandonment was abrupt. A group of police officers sent to the site concluded that more than 30 people had disappeared without leaving any indication of their destination. Theories arose: sudden migration, extreme hunger, animal attacks, but none of these fit the state in which the village was found. Migrations leave traces, attacks leave marks, escapes leave tracks. There was nothing there. Decades later, the mystery remains. No bodies, no explanations, no witnesses. Just a village frozen in time, as if erased by an invisible force. 7 forests of Oya, the Bermuda Triangle of the mainland. In northern Romania, there is a forest so enigmatic that many locals avoid entering it to this day. Basil is known for its perfect circles, where no plants grow, for trees twisted in impossible spirals, and for the feeling of disorientation that affects visitors, even on short journeys. Electronic equipment often fails without explanation. Cameras show distortions, and even drones lose signal moments after takeoff. Reports of bright lights floating among the trees have accumulated for decades, some even recorded by the military during the communist era. Researchers have tried to measure the magnetism of the soil, but the results vary so much from point to point that no theory holds up. For many scientists, it is one of the most unpredictable regions in the world in terms of electromagnetic behavior. Some people report nausea, dizziness, temporary memory loss, and a feeling of being watched. Others swear they hear footsteps, distant voices, or see shadows moving against the light. Basil is one of those places where the environment seems to react to the visitor, creating a disturbing and unpredictable experience. 8. Sargasso Sea, the ocean that seems alive. In the middle of the Atlantic, there is a sea without borders, without significant waves, and without constant wind. The Sargasso Sea is formed by currents that create a gigantic natural whirlpool, trapping tons of floating algae that cover the surface as if they were living creatures. For ancient navigators, entering that sea meant the risk of being trapped forever without wind to escape and with dense water hindering the progress of vessels. Science tries to explain the behavior of this region, but there are still enigmatic aspects. Internal currents shift without a clear pattern, hindering navigation studies. Sensors registering areas with unusual density reduce the speed of modern vessels. Furthermore, there are historical accounts of ships losing communication and reappearing days later adrift with confused tribulations and no clear memory of the events. Another mystery involves the fauna. Creatures that live there seem to have unique adaptations, as if they were evolving within an ecosystem that functions apart from the rest of the ocean. The Sargasso Sea remains a vast, silent, and unpredictable living mass. 9. The Bleeding Rock in Antarctica. Blood falls. At the end of the Taylor Glacier in Antarctica, blood-red water slowly flows from the glacier, creating one of the most disturbing landscapes on the planet. Known as blood falls, this waterfall gets its intense color from the oxidized iron present in the water. But the real mystery lies not in the color, but in its origin. This water comes from an underground reservoir isolated millions of years ago, remaining liquid even in extreme conditions, that should freeze everything quickly. The most difficult thing to explain is how this water manages to rise through the thick ice and emerge to the surface. Geological models cannot accurately reproduce the process. Furthermore, within this water are microorganisms that have survived in isolation for eons, living off chemical substances reminiscent of extraterrestrial environments. The scientific community considers blood falls one of the best models for studying how life could exist on other planets. The waterfall remains active, slowly changing the white landscape with its deep red, a constant reminder that there is still much on our planet that we do not understand. 10. The Zone of Silence, the desert where radio waves die. In the Mapimi Desert in Mexico, there is an area where radio signals simply disappear. GPS loses connection, radios fail, compasses go haywire, and even aircraft report interference when flying over the region. The Zone of Silence earned this name precisely because any attempt at communication seems to be swallowed by the air. Scientists suggest that the soil composition, rich in metallic minerals, interferes with radio waves. However, measurements taken over the years are inconsistent. There are places within the zone where magnetism is normal, and a few meters further on, it becomes completely irregular. Furthermore, meteorites fall there with unusual frequency, some containing materials not found in the region. Explorers report distortions of perception, a sense of déjà vu, and a momentary loss of direction. Equipment that works perfectly anywhere else becomes unpredictable there. The Zone of Silence is one of the most disconcerting points in the Northern Hemisphere, a technological void where the environment itself seems to distort reality. 11. Hashima Island, the forgotten fort that seems haunted. Hashima Island in Japan looks like a fortress straight out of a post-apocalyptic nightmare. Known as Battleship Island due to its shape, it was one of the most densely populated places in the world during the peak of coal mining. But when oil replaced coal and the mine lost value, the island was evacuated so quickly that many believe something else happened there. Entire buildings remained as they were. Apartments filled with personal belongings, toys, furniture, newspapers, clothes, and abandoned utensils, as if the residents expected to return the next day, but never did. The great mystery lies not only in the sudden abandonment, but in the fact that the island deteriorates much more slowly than it should. Concrete structures exposed to saline sea winds should have completely collapsed after decades. However, Hashima remains standing, erected like an urban skeleton that defies corrosion. Engineers have studied the site for years, but cannot explain the common resistance of the constructions. In some places, the concrete seems harder today than when it was erected. Visitors report metallic noises, vibrations in the ground, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. Drones pick up inexplicable interference when flying over certain areas, as if something underground were still active. Hashima is one of those places where abandonment seems conscious and the island alive. 12. Lake Hillier, the pink lake that shouldn't exist. In the far southwest of Australia, there is a lake so pink it looks digitally edited. Lake Hillier is a body of water that is intensely colored year-round. Regardless of the season, climate, or interaction with the ocean, which lies just a few meters away, science attributes the coloration to specific microorganisms, but laboratory tests have never been able to accurately reproduce the phenomenon. Something in the lake remains outside the known pattern. The strangest thing is that even if the water is removed and placed in containers, it remains pink without losing its hue over time. Storms, temperature changes, and salinity variations do not alter the almost fluorescent glow. Researchers who have studied the lake for decades acknowledge that there is some still unknown biological or chemical interaction. And the most disturbing question is the longevity of this color. There is no historical record of the lake changing its hue at any documented period. The here seems like a stable anomaly, a point of vivid color in a hostile environment. From above, it stands out like a supernatural portal amidst the dark green landscape of the forest and the deep blue of the ocean. It is one of the most intriguing geological enigmas of the southern hemisphere. 13. The Rock of Baikal, the sound no one can record. In Lake Baikal, Siberia, the largest and deepest freshwater lake in the world, an acoustic phenomenon has challenged researchers for decades. Visitors report hearing inexplicable, echoing, metallic sounds coming from the depths. These sounds are described as giant doors closing, steel pipes being dragged, or deep vibrations that make the chest tremble. However, when scientists try to record the noises with underwater equipment, nothing appears. The microphones pick up absolute silence. One of the most studied hypotheses is that the ice in Baikal creates gigantic tensions and sounds due to freezing and thawing. But the problem is that the reports also occur in the summer, when there is no ice. In addition, there are very old records, predating the existence of industrial structures in the region. Local fishermen believe that the lake speaks, as if it were a living entity. The lack of physical evidence makes the phenomenon even more mysterious. How can a sound be heard by many people, but never recorded by extremely sensitive equipment? The Baikal, with its depths of over 1,600 meters, remains a natural residence chamber, albeit one touched by something unknown. 14. Jordan's Black Desert, the soil that swallows metal. Among reddish landscapes and ancient ruins, Jordan possesses a region covered in dark volcanic rocks, forming one of the most hostile scenarios ever recorded. The Black Desert is a basalt field that absorbs heat so intensely that its surface can reach temperatures capable of melting electronic equipment and deforming thin metals. Satellites have difficulty mapping the area, and drones frequently lose signal or crash for no apparent reason. But the great mystery lies in the behavior of the soil. In some places, navigation sensors malfunction, compasses spin aimlessly, and devices lose power as if something were draining energy. Scientists have studied the magnetism of the rocks, but the data is inconsistent. Areas with the same composition exhibit completely different behaviors. The theory of subsurface interference is considered, but never confirmed. Visitors to the site experience a feeling of stepping on terrain that reacts to human presence. Vehicles stall, engines fail, radios die. The Black Desert seems like a silent field where technology loses power, as if some force there resists modernity. 15. The Submerged Pyramid of Yonaguni, Art or Nature. Beneath the crystal-clear waters of Japan, near Yonaguni Island, lies a colossal structure of stones resembling perfectly aligned staircases, platforms, and corridors. Discovered in the 1980s, this underwater formation continues to divide the scientific community. For some geologists, it is a natural work sculpted by time. For many independent explorers and archaeologists, it is impossible that the regular geometry was produced solely by erosion. The submerged pyramid features right angles, symmetrical columns, and cuts so precise that they evoke vanished civilizations. There are also areas that resemble rooms, steps, and even supposed altars. But without confirmed artifacts or definitive proof of human intervention, the mystery remains suspended in uncertainty. Hidden deep in the sea, within depths challenging even the most experienced divers, to fully explore Yonaguni Island endures as a mystery. If it is artificial, this would mean that an advanced culture existed there before the last ice age, something that would change the timeline of human history. If it is natural, it is one of the most extraordinary geological formations ever recorded. In either case, Yonaguni challenges everything we know about the past. By traversing these 15 mysterious regions, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The planet we live on still holds secrets far beyond human comprehension. In a world dominated by satellites, artificial intelligence, precision, technology, and constant observation, there are still entire areas capable of defying known laws, confusing experts, and provoking debates that span generations without a concrete answer. These places are a powerful reminder that, despite all our progress, we remain vulnerable to the unknown. The Earth is much older than us, and its complexity surpasses any human attempt at control. Each of these regions holds a different kind of enigma. In some, nature seems to play with logic, like in Death Valley and its rocks that walk on their own. In others, invisible magnetic forces distort instruments, as in the Zone of Silence or the Devil's Sea. There are places where time seems frozen, like the ghost island of Hashima, and others where life evolved separately from the rest of the planet, like the Movil Cave. And there are still points where the past and present collide in silence, like the submerged Pyramid of Yonaguni or the mysterious disappearance of an entire village in Canada. No matter the category of the phenomenon, in all of them there is a common element: the inevitable feeling that we are not just facing natural processes, we are facing the inexplicable. These mysteries are more than geographical curiosities. They represent profound gaps in our understanding of how the world works. Each region challenges some scientific certainty, forces researchers to reevaluate theories, and in some cases reveals the fragility of what we believe to be true. There are phenomena that can be studied, measured, and observed, but cannot be definitively explained. They simply continue to occur as if ignoring human presence. Human presence. And perhaps the most intriguing thing is that the more science advances, the more complex these enigmas become. For the public, these regions awaken something ancestral, the fear of the unknown mixed with an irresistible curiosity for what lies beyond our comprehension. For science, they are challenges that remain open. For us who seek to understand the world, they are reminders that we are still only discovering the surface of a deep, mutable planet full of secrets. Now, after learning about all these mysteries, the final question remains: which of these regions would you like to see transformed into a complete, in-depth and cinematic documentary on Vitice 404?